Hey everybody, Dr. Ray, and what we're going to talk about are tips for using a green screen. You know, like I'm using right now. In fact, I can show you my green screen behind me. Take a look. You got a quick look at my green screen? All right, and now you see me without it. Okay, we're going to give you tips for using a green screen so that when you put it in your video editing software, you can actually get rid of it really simple. So I'm going to give you some great tips, things that I've learned throughout the years when I'm using a green screen. Okay, so the first thing you need to think about is what kind of green screen am I going to buy? There are three types that I've been using. One of them is the projector that you can pull up and down. The next type is just a regular chroma green sheet. And the third type is actually painting a wall behind you chroma green. All right, so let's talk about those three types quick, and then let's get into some more tips about actually using them. So if you have the projector, the projectors are great. They're definitely the easiest type of green screen to buy. They're the easiest because they go up and down, so it's really easy to set them up, really easy to take them down. The one thing I tell people about the projector is do not leave it up like overnight or for an extended period, because what happens is the glue that's actually holding it down below will deteriorate over time, and it'll just snap and break, and like the green screen will like kind of wind up on itself and be all crumbled and destroyed, and you have to buy a new one. Trust me, it happened to me already, unfortunately. So I keep my projector, which is what I prefer and what I use, just only up when I'm going to shoot video. Otherwise it's always down and away. All right, that's the projector. Sheet. If you have the sheets are great because they're pretty easy to set up too. The problem is they're not as easy to take down as the projector is. And the other thing, they're kind of difficult to make smooth. So you got to iron it or get like one of those like steam. I actually prefer a steamer. You can buy a steamer at Walmart for under $20. Use one of them on it, and you got to buy a lot of clips to like clip it to something so that it's actually nice and even. Because if there's wrinkles, those wrinkles will show up in the video. So you got to get rid of all the wrinkles. All right, so that's if you have the sheet, but the sheets are really cheap. You know, the projectors, we're talking $100 to $200. The sheets are like $20 you can buy a sheet, and the stands for them are pretty cheap too if you need one of those. All right, and the final thing is painting your wall. That's the other type. So the great thing about painting the wall is that it's always just even and there. The wall is actually obviously the simple version. The problem with the wall is then your background's just always green. So that's kind of just, and you have to make sure it's matte paint so the light's not like reflecting off of it, because if it was glossy, the light would shine off of it and totally not work for a green screen. And the other problem with the wall is if someone accidentally smudges it. I have 3 little kids who smudge my wall all the time. Then you got to figure out how to get that off. I use lots of magic eraser, which works, but you got to like hope that it just works. So that's kind of a disadvantage of the wall. And a wall is just always this like green color. It's not that cool looking. I mean, it is like in a studio, but like in your house or something, not that cool. A lot of people use the projectors or like the pop-up things. I don't use the pop-up things. I haven't had one of those. I haven't used one of those, but that's another kind that you can use. I just don't have a lot of experience with the pop-up ones so I don't really want to talk about something that I haven't really used because I haven't needed to. I really just like the projectors, and I notice most streamers, most people on camera are using the projectors. All right. Okay, so let's talk about some tips for using one of those now that I've kind of talked about all the different types and tips for using them. Okay, so let's talk about your clothing. You can't wear green. You can't wear green. If you wear green, like if your shirt, like this shirt, if I had like a green picture on the shirt, like the Incredible Hulk was on my shirt, he would be like see-through right now. You couldn't see him. So you can't wear clothing or have anything on with green. Like if I had like green makeup on, if I was the Incredible Hulk, you could not see me. So you can't use like the color of your screen or close to it. So also like greenish yellows or greenish blues are a no-no. In fact, the shirt I'm having on is almost questionable. This is a good enough contrast, but I'd be much better off with like a dark colored blue, black, any real dark color that clashes well with green would do well in the green screen. So just remember that, like you don't want to wear the color that your screen is or else it won't work right. Next thing, lighting. And I'm not talking about like giving you lighting tips, just that You have to make sure that your lighting is even on the green screen. So there's not like one section of really bright light and one section of really dark. Because if your green screen and your camera has like different shades of green, it's going to be really hard to crop it out. So you want one nice consistent green color throughout the entire thing. So however you light, however many lights you use, make sure it's consistent behind you. I have 2 ring lights in front of me right now, one on each like side coming at me. And then I have 2 little lights, like little desk lamps that you can buy at Walmart for $10 on the ground coming up behind me as a background light. So I have 4 lights, but I could easily get away with 2 or 3. I actually have like 10 lights that I'm not using. I have so many lights for different positions and features in my studio. So, but you really could get away with probably even 1 ring light, but you just have to play around with it and make sure that the lighting is consistent. That's all. So when you're using green screen, you have to have consistent lighting. The other thing on top of that is you don't want any shadows or like marks on your green screen. So if there's like someone drew like a black marker on your green screen, that's going to ruin it. You got to make sure there's no shadows. So what you have to do is when that's kind of, setting up your lighting, like not making sure there's any shadows. But what I find when I'm doing this, like in my home studio, especially when I'm sitting in front of the computer, I need to make sure that I'm a few feet. The further away I am from the green screen, the better. Now, I'm only probably like about 1.5 feet away, which happens to be enough space. But if I was like only 6 inches away, you would be able to see my shadow in the green screen and I could not crop that out. So you have to sit far enough away from your green screen or be far enough away that you're not going to see your shadow or any kind of marks or anything like that. All right. Final tip for using a green screen at home or in your studio. Test it. Do not rely that it's just going to work. Please, please, please test it. Every time I'm in a new room, new situation, and I'm setting up my lighting, green screen, seat, clothing, all that stuff, I probably test at least 3 to 5 times, if not sometimes up to like 8 or 10 times. That's because I'm playing with the different shadows, lighting. Oh, I can see a bright light that I couldn't just see when you gotta test it with whatever software you're using to eliminate green screen. I use a lot of Camtasia. I use a lot of OBS. Whatever you happen to be using, whatever you're using, please, 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 whatever video software you're using, make sure that it works with your current setup. Now, once you've went through that setup one time, like in my office right now, I didn't test before I made this video because I know it's all my lights are already set up. Everything's already set up, so I kind of can just sit down and go. But that first time, please test. I've lost so many videos. I've heard stories of people losing stuff because they did not test. It's so much harder to edit after the fact. So just test. So those are my tips, right? That's it. Pretty simple. Using a green screen is fun. It's easy. You can create some really cool effects with it. I really love it. You have any other tips? Let me know. Comment, down below in the comment section. And I hope you enjoyed all. Later.